I'm not actually gonna burn my passport, and I'm not saying anyone should, but with everything happening right now, it feels like my ability to have a passport that respects my gender has been burned away. Let me explain. Welcome to episode 5 of Changing My Name and Documents. If you're trans and this situation is affecting you, like it is me, skip to this time code right here, and you can just get the practical update. If you're new here, my name is Maya. I like to usually talk about fashion and being trans, sexuality, that kind of thing. But lately with everything going on, even a simple series like, updating my documents has become a national story. I want to share about what's going on right now and everything going on with the passport. So get some tea, settle in. There'll be 3 parts. I'm going to talk about the executive orders. I'm going to talk about the pushback against them. I'm going to talk about what's going on right now with my passport and then how I feel about this whole thing. Here are time codes for each of those things if you would like to skip ahead. So here's the first part. The current administration has signed a horrible executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. It's doing a lot of harm to trans women mostly, to put it extraordinarily lightly. To quote Erin Reed from erininthe.morning.com, quote, "The executive order is a comprehensive directive aimed at squarely dismantling legal and social recognition of transgender people." Nancy Kafer wrote for the Detroit Free Press her opinion piece titled, "Trump's Anti-Executive Order is Breathtakingly Cruel." She said, quote, "It is certainly the most disingenuous executive order based on bizarre, fevered fantasies about who trans women really are," end quote. So it's a lot of hateful nonsense. It says we don't exist, it's really dumb, and the most direct effect it's had on me is not being able to update this passport that I got in 2019, before I came out, before I started hormones. It really looks nothing like me. There's a lot to unpack here, and in the days since I started writing down my thoughts, there have been more anti-trans executive orders. I haven't really been able to keep up with this constantly developing story. There's another executive order banning us from the military. I don't support the military or want to be a part of it, but the wording in there says we're deceptive. Beyond taking hormones and getting surgeries, it says we're deceptive and liars and shouldn't be trusted. Then there is one banning transgender affirming healthcare for anyone 19 or younger, calling gender affirming care, quote, chemical and physical mutilation. Again, attacking trans adults. The attack doesn't end at children. It's also going after the set of standards of care for transgender people, for all of us, regardless of age. Another executive order bans talking about trans and queer things at school, mandating for teachers to misgender and out their own students. Before I could really recover from any of this, there was yet another executive order banning us from sports, saying that they'll cut funding from any school that lets trans kids be a part of sports. So, like, advocating for, at the very least, not including us. It calls on the United Nations to have this affect international sports. The CDC has called for the retraction of any research papers with forbidden terms, including transgender. Information about AIDS and other important things have been taken out. Sites have taken the T out of LGBT issues. These executive orders are not laws. They are poorly written hate speech. The scary thing is how quickly some of them are being implemented. Usually we would talk about months, or hopefully at least weeks, for them to actually affect people. But already passports, including my own, can't be updated. Some hospitals, even one in Colorado, started complying with the trans healthcare ban. There was another memo saying that any federal building couldn't have me use the bathroom that I've been using since 2020, and that's absurd because that includes post office. And the NCAA has said that they're going to start implementing a ban on trans people. There will be legal challenges, and I know my community has so many people fighting for us. And that has made things so much better. So I want to share some of the resistance. People like the folks at the Montgomery County Public Schools in Maryland have said they refuse to comply with the executive order attacking trans kiddos in school. The Department of Education of California released a statement as follows. It's against federal law for the White House to dictate what educators can and cannot teach by threatening to defund essential public services for students. Lambda Legal have filed a joint lawsuit against the current administration's ban on trans care for 19-year-olds, and 15 attorneys general issued a joint statement affirming as follows. As state attorneys general, we stand firmly in support of healthcare policies that respect dignity and rights of all people. And the Human Rights Council and Lambda Legal just filed another lawsuit against the trans military ban. Additionally, 7 transgender Americans sued the president and the State Department in federal court against not letting us have our passports. including someone I'll talk about later. Oregon, Minnesota, and Washington also filed a suit against banning care for 19-year-olds. The International Pinball Association went against the transport thing, saying women are women, trans men are men, and non-binary identity exist and are valid. Hospital in Wisconsin reinstated gender-affirming care for at least one teenager after receiving pushback for being unreasonable. This is a developing story, and it's taken me a while to write it, and every day that I have put it off for whatever reason, there's been new attacks and new signs of hope from people fighting back. I'll put links below to everything I mentioned. Every day there's something new happening. Things are pretty crazy right now, so it's kind of hard to keep up, but I'm hoping this video will at least inform you a little bit if you hadn't been aware of what's going on. So now that you have the context of what's going on, let me share how it's affected me. The first executive order I mentioned wouldn't let me change my passport. I thought I had to have my updated birth certificate, but under Biden's rules, I didn't. I found this out by a trans guy mentioned it to me in passing, and I made my appointment as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, my appointment was a few days after the inauguration, and I thought, oh, I'll have a couple months to figure it out. But Marco Rubio was confirmed as the Secretary of State, and immediately this executive order has been implemented, and people haven't been able to change their passports. The site for changing your gender on your social security card went away, and I really didn't know what was going on. I was looking on Reddit and trying to figure out what was going on, and I didn't really know until this video came up from Zaya, and she's actually one of the 7 plaintiffs who sued the government. I want to share what she shared because that's what answered my question. So my situation is as follows. I have my name legally changed and gender changed with a court order. I have my social security card name legally changed and gender changed. I have my updated ID, and I'm waiting for my birth certificate to come from Nevada. So one would think that all of this documentation would be more than enough to prove that I am who I am. However, in the case of Zaya Persian, she's really pretty and she's a great person. She said she had all her documents. So everything I mentioned plus the birth certificate, and she still got her new passport back with an M because the State Department had a record of a passport she had as a child. They said that regardless of all her other documents, her gender would go with her old passport from when she was a child. She said, quote, "All this does is put me in danger." And she's right. Thank you, Zaya. I ended up not going to my appointment, and had I gone, I would have gotten a new photo, but I would have gotten an M on my passport and a little note, a little letter, just like Zaya did, saying that regardless of all the paperwork, regardless of what she looks like, regardless of her surgeries in her case, regardless of HIT, her gender is dictated by her old passport, which is absurd. And I don't know, maybe I should have gone to my appointment, find out what was going on, but I've heard of people getting their passports not returned. It's a mess because there's no actual policy dictating this because it was implemented so quickly and so immediately. So thanks again to Human Rights Council, Lambda Legal, the ACLU, Zaya and the other plaintiffs, Washington, Minnesota, California, everyone who's doing their part. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's where it stands. Regardless of what paperwork you have, regardless of how long you've been on hormones, regardless of what you look like, you can't update your passport. I've heard rumors that if you've never had a passport, it can change. But if you've had your documents changed, unfortunately there's a record of that. For now, I'll wait for the courts. I shared my story with Lambda Legal and the Human Rights Council, and I really hope that the lawsuits change things so I can get my passport. So yeah, I can't have a passport right now, and that makes me feel a lot of things. So I'm gonna share about that next. Feelings. What does it feel like to be a transgender person in America right now? When I started the series, it was a pretty simple idea. I'm going to share the bureaucracy, help people figure out what forms to fill out, help people get an idea for how long these things take, share my story from the beginning. I just filed my paperwork, then I'll be able to get my ID, my passport. I have a very exciting video today. I have a legal document that I've been waiting for 6 months. Took a little cheesecake and a happy name day to me. My name is Pimentel. Administration. That means I got a new social. Pimentel. This is so exciting. And why this does matter. What it was like thinking that it was going to be about the difficulties of bureaucracy and the euphoria of getting my documents. I didn't think, maybe naively, that it was going to become a national story. Sharing about my passport has become a national story, and it has made me feel a lot and be really anxious. And maybe it's hard to understand. Maybe you're not trans and you, for whatever reason, don't see why passports are a big deal. I'm gonna be sharing why passports are really important for me. But just for starters, let's just have a little thought experiment. Say you're in line for security, you're about to go on a trip, you're really excited, you've been saving up a lot, and they ask you to show your ID. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, you have your cousin's ID, or your brother's ID, or your sister's ID, and it's not you. And it has the same last name maybe, and it's the same race as you, but it's not you, it's just not you. And you start to scramble and you're like, wait, what's going on? This is not me, and I thought I had my right passport. And then people start asking questions, you get patted down. That's what it's like. It's as if everyone's being forced to have a random identity that shares the same race as them, but that's really about it. That would be absurd if everyone's passport just transformed into the wrong gender and the wrong name. It would be absolute chaos. You can't have a society where you give people random identities, but effectively that's what's going on. But that's what's going on. Unfortunately, it's as if we're getting random family members' identity. And I know I'm being absurd. I'm not going to say everyone has to switch identities with some random person in their family, but that's what it feels like. So imagine that. Imagine you're trying to leave the country and all of a sudden you have the wrong passport. What would you do? That's what is happening to all of us. It's just wrong. I can't get the passport that is right for me right now. And it's really, really frustrating. It's a big deal. We hear about nature and nurture and how different things affect how we grow and move through the world. We're talking about nature right now and external forces, and this is the first time where something the government has done in Washington has affected me so directly, has given me anxiety and stopped me from making videos and going out. It's the first time I felt the external affect me so directly. And you might say, Maya, just chill, like don't listen to the news, it's all gonna blow over. But no, it's getting worse, and although there is a pushback, and I'm really grateful for that, it's still happening and it's still mutating and it's still attacking me and it still affects me directly. I can't just ignore reality. My last video, I called for hope. If you haven't watched it, go ahead. I thought I would start on a positive note, but I wanted to also document what I'm actually feeling like beyond the hope. I want to just share, maybe it's mostly for myself, but I want to have a documentation of what it feels like to be trans right now in the US. I feel like my community is trying to be erased from existence. I am not a political operation. I am not a scapegoat. I am flesh and blood and a soul. And I was assigned the wrong gender at birth, but thanks to hormones, any doctor can test my blood right now and they'll see that my hormones are that of a cis woman. They can do a body scan and look at me, my breasts, my hips, my skin. I have transformed myself into a woman. People see me in the street and they call me Miss. They call me she. Today at the fitting room, someone said she. When I go out and I kiss people, I know I'm real. I know that's real. And I know my body's real. And all of this is real. Obviously, I shouldn't have to convince anyone. Yeah, it feels like the government is trying to tell me that I'm not real. And honestly, it feels like the government came out and said trees aren't real. When everyone can see trees, and everyone knows what trees are, and everyone knows what amazing things trees are, and like, who the fuck would join your religion where you say trees aren't real, but you can see trees? How does this party allegedly believe in God, but can't see the hot trans girl that's 100% real on camera? I want to see Jesus on camera. I want to see God on camera. I'm on camera. I'm real. If you believe in God, you can believe in trans people. Come on. So yeah, I can't get my passport right now, and that means I'm not going to leave the country. I know if the situation gets worse and I need to escape, I could boy mode, but I don't want to misgender myself. I don't want to put myself in danger. I don't want to be othered at an airport. I'm already brown, and I already get mistaken for being Middle Eastern, which, amazing. I love Middle East. And I know I must have genes from there, because for a while, the Iberian Peninsula was invaded by North African people. So I don't want to travel if it means getting called sir. I'm not going to misgender myself. It doesn't feel good. It feels horrible. It feels wrong. I'm not going to do that. I feel like all these executive orders, all these memos, all this hatred has been rushed. It's just like throwing all this shit at the wall and seeing what sticks, trying to scare me into staying home, into detransitioning. But I'm not going to, don't worry. I'm stronger than all this. But it feels like the government is trying to convince me that I should just stay home and be depressed, and I shouldn't join any resistance movement, and that it's already too late, and that I already don't exist. But like I said, I'm so real. I promise. And yeah, it's easy to feel hopeless, and it's really hard to combat depression. But I've been trying to look at it and figure out where it's coming from, and look at depression until it's a small little bug I can step on. I don't want the barrage of executive orders to just stop me from being myself. And yeah, I have ADHD, and There's a shortage for my medication, so I don't have it, so it's extra hard. But I'm not gonna let anyone tell me I don't exist. But it's still hard. Like, I can be defiant, but it's still really hard. It's like a nightmare that just keeps going when you wake up. It's awful. So yeah, I hang out with friends, and I went to a protest when I could, and I'm still here, and we're still breathing and living, but for the first time, my family talked about leaving the country. My mom's ready to if things get really bad. I want to share more about travel in my family and why having a passport is really important to me, because some people haven't even left the state or the country, and they might not get it. I'm so used to being able to travel. It's a part of who I am. I attended 7 different schools across 2 continents and 4 states. By the time I've attended high school, I'd lived in about 11 cities. When I was younger, this was hard. I was always a new kid. It was always awkward. But eventually, I learned how to assimilate and make friends faster. And now when I'm in new difficult situations, I know how to be a part of groups. And it's literally my DNA. My grandpa would move every 2 years. And although I resented it when I was younger, especially if it was like switching during middle school or just before high school graduation, I've come to enjoy it. I love traveling. I like the idea of not being tied down to any place. I went to Europe by myself. And then after coming out, I even moved to Peru, and then I moved to Oakland. I want to travel more. I really saw globetrotting as a part of my future. And it's not just moving to different places that I enjoy. I love traveling. The thrill of a one-way ticket is better than most drugs, in my opinion. And lately I was even enjoying turbulence, the rocking feeling. It's like you're alive in the air and you're moving. I wish I had wings, to be honest. If I had a superpower, I would love to fly. And yeah, since coming out, I'll be honest, it's not the same. Before I came out, I interviewed a homeless man under a bridge at night. I wouldn't do that anymore, but I still love traveling. I want to travel the world and meet other queer people and other trans people and talk to them and connect with them and really explore this community, being trans. The trans community is all over the world. And I really am excited, and I know I still will make a series where I travel and meet other trans people. But right now the government's telling me no, and they're giving all this barrage of transphobia, and they're stopping me from seeing the world and being a citizen of the world. And maybe this sounds dramatic, but honestly it is. I'm a global citizen. I grew up in Peru and the US, and I've lived in New York and Colorado, and that has shaped who I am. So has being trans, and now those things are not able to coexist. Like, that's crazy. Now, I would be remiss to not mention how so many immigrants already feel this way, not being able to travel, not being able to leave the country. More and more it feels like the system that we talk about, the broken system. The system's not broken. It's always meant to hurt minorities. It's just doing it more directly now. And yes, I have privilege. I was born here, and I've never been worried about my family getting deported. And I know for many other Latin Americans, that's not the case. And I just want to have empathy with that. I know there's a lot of other executive orders and undocumented people are being attacked, and that's not fair. And no one should have to think of leaving the country as a luxury. Everyone should be able to see the world, because that's how the world becomes a better place. When you meet people from different cultures and you get to know them and you realize that we're all people and we care about happiness. And of course, we all have different values. I mean, I have different values than my brother. Of course, people in different countries have different values, but we can still meet each other. And it's such an important part of being a person, is getting to know the world. When one person is attacked, when one minority is attacked, we all are. There's trans people in every demographic. There are undocumented trans people who need our support. There are trans people all over the world who need our support. So yeah, now more than ever, my story, my existence is part of a national story. And everyone's been feeling it. I'm not the only one who's stressed out and spewing feelings at a camera. My friends are also upset, and I have a friend who I have a few friends who haven't made any changes to like their social security or legal name change, and they're feeling stressed. They're really trying to erase us. If you have trans people around you, give them a hug, help them move to a safer state. Things are really hard right now, and everyone should be able to travel and move. And yeah, this has been a really rambly video, but that's how I feel. I feel stressed, I feel trapped, I feel frustrated. At the same time, I feel hope for all the good things going on, everything I listed. And I really hope I don't have to run away from the US. And it's really hard to be trans right now, but I hope it's going to be okay, because being trans is such a euphoric thing for me. I didn't have a lot of dysphoria like other people did. I found out that before I came out, my normal was this kind of weird life where everything was gray and sad, and I didn't know life could be this good until I came out. So it's really hard for someone to be like, hey, you know that thing that makes you really happy? Yeah, that's the thing I'm gonna attack. So yeah, we're real, we're amazing, we're not going anywhere, we've been here for ages, but you already know that. But yeah, it's hard. Things are hard right now, and I really hope they get better. But this is how I feel right now. So if you've watched this far, thanks so much for watching. It means the world, and I love you guys. Thank you.